Are you a businesswoman who is finding it challenging to get your ideas across and make a point? Welcome to Speakers Who Get Results with Elizabeth Bachman, a podcast dedicated to helping women get the visibility they want, whether making a speech or talking in a meeting. Every week, get valuable lessons from Elizabeth or learn from her roundtable conversations with experts and speakers on how to make a difference, not just a point. On to the show with your host, Elizabeth Bachman.
Hello, and welcome to Speakers Who Get Results, the podcast where we interview experts on how to improve your presentation skills so that you can get your listeners to do what you want them to do. Whether you are speaking to inspire an audience, whether you're speaking to get sales or clients or get people to invest in your company, maybe you're even speaking in a meeting and you want to get people to do what you need them to do. It's all presentation skills. Before we begin, I'd like to invite you to go over to our quiz, our free assessment, which is www.speakforresultsquiz.com. That's speakforresultsquiz.com, and take our free assessment. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes. There you can see where your presentation skills are great and where maybe you might need a little bit of support. And now I'm so excited to talk to my wonderful friend, Cindy Ashton, who is, Cindy Ashton, whom I first met in sort of speaking and opera context. And she's amazing. I'm going to read you the official bio because I'm so happy. Oh, Cindy, I'm just so excited to have you on here.
I'm so excited.
Yay. So Cindy Ashton is a presentation strategist and partner at Minerva Enterprises, an elite level presentation strategist, professional speaker, singer, and award-winning TV host of Cindy Uncorked on E360 TV. With 20 years of experience, she's an authority on presentation skills, speaking voice, body language, content delivery, and leadership presence. She's Canadian-born, but she lives in the United States under a green card for a person of extraordinary ability. I didn't know there was that sort of designation. Yes.
There is, and it's very difficult to get. You actually have to show that you're in the top 1 percentile and beat out over 300 million Americans for them to want you in the country. So it's really tedious. It's hundreds and hundreds of pages, different categories where you have to be vetted, and they do it very mathematically. It's really hard to do. So I'm very proud of it.
Yay, Cindy, I'm amazed about that. She's also I'm amazed. I'm not surprised, but I'm just astounded. Because of course you're a person of extraordinary ability.
Thank you. Still humble and learning, of course.
Yes, right. She's also considered to be in the top 1% in her field of training, speaking, and performing. Get this, she's received awards from former President Obama and Queen Elizabeth II for her lifetime of volunteerism. And she's appeared in multiple media, including ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, Inc. magazine, and Forbes. So Cindy Ashton, welcome to,
Thank you.
Welcome to Speakers Who Get Results.
I am so honored to be here, Elizabeth, because I always talk about what it's, you're a good friend. And yes, we met through the opera link of you being, a former director at Just the Met, working with Pavarotti and all them, and how I used to do opera, like sing with symphonies, and am still a performer. And then we connected on that level. And then just to see the presentation stuff that we're both doing, it's an amazing connection. So
it's
I'm
really
very
fun.
honored.
It's really fun to connect with other people from the performing arts background and see how you turn it into business, because this is a business. So, performing arts are a business, and presentation skills are a business. So let's do this. So Cindy, I'm so happy to have you with us. I'm going to start with the question I ask all my guests. If you were to interview somebody from history, who would it be? Who's your dream interview? What would you talk about? And who should be listening? Who should be in the audience?
Yeah. So Martha Graham, and most people are going, what? Who's Martha Graham? And Martha Graham is an amazing woman, gone now, who was the pioneer of the modern dance movement. So we always watch things like, so you think you can dance, 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 and then they always have contemporary. That's Martha Graham, although there's been Le Mans and a bunch of other methodologies, but you have to imagine this, a woman in the turn of the century, early 1900s, born, raised in a time where women are not supposed to be leaders or supposed to be housewives pumping out babies, right? And here is this amazing woman who, at this time of the turn of the century, there's so much innovation happening, so much disruption happening with technology, and she's making disruption in the dance world. Instead of saying we're going to do ballet and be very poised and whatever, she's like learning how to free her body and creating an entire new dance form that has now literally taken over the dance world and has influenced millions of people. And it's amazing that she did this at a time when women were not supposed to be leaders. And what I loved about her is that she stood out in a man's world at this time. What I love about her is that she was daring, she was bold, she was innovative, she was willing to piss people off and push boundaries. She was willing to create something that was fresh and new, that had such an impact on people and gave them freedom of expression in a way that ballet, as much as I love ballet, and I'm actually okay at it, as much as I love ballet, the freedom that you get with modern, I mean, it was so brave and it was so deep, her work. I'm such a huge fan.
So what would you ask her?
I would ask her, where the hell did you get the strength to do this at a time where women were just so suppressed? Not that we're not in other ways today, but how the hell did you come up with the bravery? And the second question for me would be, how did this even spark? Like, how did it spark for you, instead of doing ballet arms, to, push out and stick your leg out with not pointed toes, but with a flexed foot? How did that inspire you?
I always thought she was influenced by Isadora Duncan. And
you're right. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Now that you said that, I remember, you're right.
Yeah. But then she's the one who took Isadora Duncan's nice ladylike experimentation of sort of pre-Raphaelite ladies in flowing robes, turned that into a serious dance. Actually, now that you're saying this, I think I have to go back I have to go back and read more about Isadora Duncan herself, because I always figure that people like that started their own stuff because they were pissed off. And, and if they couldn't fit into the money, say, well, okay, I'll make my own then.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what I'm doing with the speaking world right now. And people are like, what is she doing? I'm like, no, you don't understand. Because I think in 30 years from now, people are going to go, Cindy Ashton revolutionized how presentation is.
Okay. And tell us more about that, please.
So here's the thing, is that the presentation world, in my opinion, most of it is very formulaic. It's stand here, pose here, do this, do that. And at the very basic level, it's good to, at least if you're nervous, it's great to give you some structure, but that doesn't give you freedom. And so throughout my years of training voices, training body language, training speakers, executives, salespeople, what I have noticed is how stress sits in the body directly influences body language, voice, all these different pieces. And I didn't just notice it, but I had to live it, because I was born with heart failure, a 20% chance of living. The entire left side of my body was structurally damaged. So my body's been through a lot of trauma, multiple surgeries, cutting of bones, tissues, nerves. And as somebody who was trained as a singer, dancer, actor, I had the technical training, but a lot of the times I didn't present well in auditions because the stress and the trauma in my body was reading louder than my technique. And so I feel like I have yet to meet anybody who works on the stress management trauma piece of presentation in a way that we do. Like, I have literally over years heard so many voices, seen so much body language, that at some point I'm going to hire somebody at Harvard to take what's in my head and substantiate it statistically. But I can hear someone's voice and know what kind of trauma they've been through if they have not release the trauma. I can hear what kind of trauma they have been through based on the nuances, the inflections, where the stress is sitting in their body, how their body posture is. I literally can look at somebody presenting or in a sales conversation and tell you what they've been through in their childhood or in their life.
So talk a little bit about, all right, so maybe we haven't had multiple surgeries or whatever, but people get nervous. So the stress, how does the stress in your body affect your voice and or your body language?
I love this question because I want to back it up, because you're right. Some people may not have had the trauma of multiple surgeries. Here's some statistics, and then I'm going to answer your question. 70% of people who have been through at least one traumatic event in their body or in their life, when you have a trauma, it changes your brain, and then the brain signals differently in your body. So I did my degree, yes, in music, but I also did it in kinesiology with specialization in relaxation therapy.
Can you just tell us what kinesiology, we've got an international audience here, so
kinesiology is like pre-med. So it's a study of the body. So I was taking like physiology, anatomy, nutrition, relaxation therapy, stress management, health, those kinds of things. So you also have to look at 50% of both Americans and Canadians, I'm not sure about internationally, live with one chronic condition. 78% of people within the United States and Canada, and I apologize, I don't have worldwide stats, live with chronic stress. All these pieces show up in your body. So even if you haven't had trauma through surgeries, you have something, whether it's a chronic condition, some kind of stress or something. 99% of people are carrying stuff in their body, and it affects their voice and their body language. So let me tell you about how this comes across. I literally could write books and books about everything I've observed. So let me kind of give you a couple of concrete examples. So let's say somebody is holding their stress in their chest. So right now I'm holding my stress in my chest. Elizabeth, what just happened to how I'm coming across now that I'm holding stress in my chest?
Well, you're much stiffer. And actually, I can hear it in your voice that you're much stiffer and your voice has got a little bit higher up. Yeah.
And so how does that make you feel? So when I'm talking to you like right now, you're this way, this is the way I'm talking. How does that make you feel? Versus now I'm a little bit stiffer and I have stress in my chest and in my shoulders. How does this make you feel? What's the difference in how you feel?
Well, you're not nearly as warm and friendly.
I know. So what happens is that when we hold a lot of stress, our voices do two things. They get more aggressive, which pushes people away and makes them feel overwhelmed and like you're attacking them. And then the second thing, what you said, Elizabeth, is that your voice gets pushed up. And from a scientific perspective, when your voice gets pushed up to the higher tones, men are the opposite from dogs. Dogs can hear super high overtones that us humans can't hear. That's why when Snoopy or whatever dog you have is howling and you're like, Snoopy, what's going on? Snoopy's howling at sounds that Snoopy can hear that are very high that we can't hear. Men are the opposite of dogs.
Humans, you mean?
What?
Humans or men?
Men specifically.
Okay.
Humans in general humans do not hear as many high overtones as dogs.
Right.
But men, especially the way they're wired, cannot hear higher tones. They're opposite from dogs. So when we hear the old joke, oh yeah, my husband's like tuning me out. And it's like, he might be tuning you out because your voice. He's actually not trying to do it on purpose. So it's literally because of the overtones that if men can't hear it, the minute that your voice goes up, men start to go very, very like glossy, and it's harder. They have to really concentrate to hear.
So I'm going to ask you in a minute what we do about this. But first, I can certainly see how this applies in business, but would you please spell it out for us?
Yes.
Why do we care?
Why do we care? Well, let's see. If you are in a conversation with somebody in networking, do you want to feel like you are being barreled at, bullied, and the energy is too hard on you? Like, Elizabeth, have you ever been in a situation where their presence is so big, but it's not grounded that you feel like you want to close off and push them away?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever felt that?
Yeah.
This is like, it's like you're pushing your, so here's the thing, it's a traditional speaking training is about, I'm going to stand tall and I'm going to deliver like Tony Robbins. And it comes across as this push energy that invades somebody's space. And especially with the Me Too stuff going on, we got to be careful about people's boundaries. These are energetic boundaries.
Absolutely.
So this aggression turns people off, or it makes them feel bullied into working with you. And then it's not a good relationship because it didn't start clean.
Yes, absolutely.
So whether that's a sales conversation or networking or delivering from the stage, I see a lot of people deliver from stage with this push energy, and it exhausts the audience and it actually tunes them out.
Yeah, that's something that used to work, and people are tired of it. They've seen enough of it. They're tired of it now. And in a meeting, that's another thing that's still culturally, we've been culturally accustomed to. Men can be loud and pushy, but women don't, women aren't really allowed to do that. And there's a pushback or a resistance when women do that. And a lot of the work that I do is helping women who aren't necessarily making speeches, they're speaking within meetings, walking that tightrope between being respected and being pushy.
Absolutely.
So what can we do about it? How do we fix it?
So there's a million other stress patterns that we can talk about later if we still have time. But let's say that you've got all this stress, and most of us are holding stress in our chest, and most of us are not breathing in our belly. So what I love to do is Cactus Arms. So if you are listening, try to imagine this. If you're watching, just watch. So you're literally going to put your feet shoulder width apart, spread out your toes, spread out your feet, literally put your feet into the ground and feel them grounding down. Feel like you've got roots at the bottom of your feet and they're going dig, 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 dig into the center of the core of the earth and dig it in and anchor. Then we want our cactus arms. So you're literally putting your hands up as if someone just put a gun at you, but let's pretend we're cactus because that's more positive. So you want to do that. Be careful of the shoulders. Drop the shoulder blades. Tuck your tailbone slightly. Stretch your arms back. Can you feel the stretch, Elizabeth?
Yes. And if you do too far back, you put a strain on your chest.
Right. So it's about, don't overdo it. You go to your edge, but don't go beyond your edge. And then you want to breathe with it and feel the tension and breathe into where the tense parts are. And just release. Sometimes I'll move around with it and release it that way. Once you've done it for 30 seconds, shake it out.
Okay.
And then do it again. So once you've relaxed, we're going to do it again. And then you do it, and then we don't have to keep doing it now, but you do it 2, 3, 4 times. Here's what my challenge is for you. I want you to record. I want you to actually record yourself speaking a paragraph before you do this. And then I want you to do this exercise. And then I want you to stretch your mouth and move it around.
Yeah.
And then I want you to record record yourself speaking again, and you're going to notice your voice is relaxed, more relaxed.
I recommend this to all our listeners. This is a great exercise because one of the things that people forget is that speaking is a physical act. I mean, you've got muscles, and often if you're saying something complicated, make sure you say it out loud because you have to train the muscles of your lips and tongue, not to mention your breathing muscles, in order to produce it well. Well,
and here's the other thing is that I'm 100%. It's about what you're saying is that we as speakers or even salespeople or networkers, business people, we don't realize that we need to get in the zone, which means we need to warm up just like we're an athlete or an actor. Because you want freedom in your body. When you have freedom in your body, you come across more relaxed. Your voice is naturally loud without being aggressive, and people feel drawn to you. I always say, just invite people into your lair. I'm a little saucy, but you want to allow people to come into your space as opposed to pushing yourself on them.
That's fine if you're doing, say, a keynote address or something, and it's actually great exercise. Pardon me. Great exercise for when you're giving a speech. But how can you have time to do this if you're speaking? What you need to do is convince people in a meeting, come across more naturally, and believably in a meeting. You're walking that tightrope all the time.
Yeah.
Who has time?
So here's the thing is when we work with our clients at Minerva Enterprises, we give them a routine that takes them 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If you needed to go into a meeting, isn't it worth it till you go in the bathroom stall, do a quick 3-minute warm up so that you can be more in your power than to go in there like a barrel of stress?
Yeah.
So we literally give people, like, we have like 5 steps that you can do in like less than 2 or 3 minutes that gets you in the zone. But here's the other piece of it. It's also about your daily living, because in your daily living, do you want to be coming across as stressed and not in your power all the time? So when we work with our clients, we also give them stuff that, you know, for those who are serious and not just want it on the spot, but want it as a lifestyle change, which a lot of our speakers or our salespeople and all of our clients do, because they realize that it improves their relationships. It has less conflict in how they're coming across. They have more confidence. So people who've been bullied a lot get bullied less because they're not as stressed. They're more present in their body. They're more articulate. It's harder to abuse and bully someone who is in their body and articulate. So yes, we can give you a 3-minute on the spot thing, get it done before you go into a meeting, into a conversation in the workplace.
So this is great. And we've sort of been talking about how women can speak to men and be more believed, respected, taken seriously. What advice do you give men?
It's the same, because there's a lot of men. So it's interesting. We actually have about 50-50 in our company in terms of like men versus women as clients. It's the same thing. There's a lot of men who end up finding that learning, this is going to take it out of the work piece, but they find that because they're able to be more present in their body, more relaxed, it's actually helping them in their relationships, because they're not coming across as aggressive or like they don't care, because they've learned how to be present and more relaxed and be able to listen better. Because when you're holding all the stress in your body, it's harder for you to be present and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And sales is actually not about talking, it's about listening.
Yes, that's true. And anytime you're selling, you're in a meeting or you're talking to someone where you're speaking because you want them to do something, which you suggest, that's selling. That's selling an idea. It's
right. And men have just as much stress and trauma in their bodies. Women tend to carry it. I don't want to go into the whole trauma thing for this whole interview, but when women have been traumatized, it's harder for them to let it go for very scientific reasons that I don't think we have time to talk about today. But it is harder for women to truly be able to be more present than men are, just because they carry trauma differently.
And also, I think that we are socialized, women are socialized to not push back, as children. So even though
We are?
Yep, we are. And it's one of those things. And it's, some of it's nature, some of it's nurture. Yeah.
Things are changing, but way too slow.
Well, that's okay. For it to be a true change and for society to truly evolve, so there really is parity, I don't know if economic parity will ever happen, but let's say gender parity and diversity parity. So,
Right.
It's not just men and women, it's also different cultures, different backgrounds. Right. All of that history comes into play, especially because when someone looks at you, they're going to automatically assume something.
Right.
Depending on how they're from. I mean, you're Canadian. I'm sure there are things where you look around and you say, oh, that's so American.
Well, it was a little bit, I found it really shocking to me. It's, of course, we have racism in Canada, but when I moved to the US, I was pretty horrified at the level and the depth of racism in America compared to Canada. Again, I'm not saying we're perfect, but what I saw here and continue to is like, holy crap.
Well, and now we're in an international business world. So more and more we're working with people from all over the world.
Yes.
And you have to be able to speak to them in a way that they can listen, right?
Right. And that's why what you and I are doing with speaking training is different. because it's not about canned poses and gestures, because that disconnects you from another human being if you're so busy being in your head.
Yes.
But when you learn to drop in your body and listen, then even if it's a different culture, then you can, first of all, you'll be more inviting to them, so it will relax them.
Mm-hmm.
But secondly, you're going to be in a position where they will be able to, you'll be able to, because it's not about you and being perfect, but it's about listening and taking in the energy. You'll then be able to communicate, because you're going to be able to communicate based on what you're picking up and reading. But it takes bravery to be able to drop in and let that happen. It's an acting thing, really, to be able to be that present and connected.
So what do you do if you're speaking to a whole group and you've got lots of nationalities there, you've got lots of diversity in your list? How do you connect to 500 people?
I love it. So the first thing is that you ask that meeting planner a heck of a lot of questions. What's important to them? What's their common values? Why are they there? What are they trying to learn? Because I see too many speakers not make it about the audience and make it all about, look at me, the Devo or the diva, and look at all the great info and look how fabulous I am, when it's not about the speaker. It's got to be truly, and they don't customize, most speakers. You have to understand the questions you should be asking is, what's the culture of this company? Or, you know, I mean, what's the values, and what's the mission, and what's the objectives, and what are these people trying to do and feel and be? Get to the deeper psychological level. Again, because you and I come from the theater performing background, we understand this, right? Once you understand that, then already you're way ahead, because of the fact that you have created content that's going to be relevant and great for them, that they're going to already have good buy-in with you. So first, you've got to look at your content and get that clear, and understand those values and the beliefs. Knowing that, then when you're on stage, it is about being present. It is about being connected. But when you drop all the facades and you focus your energy on taking in the energy of the audience, then as you're delivering, then you're able to pick up a laugh and like smile. Then you're able to pick up what's coming in. If you see people are really engaged, you're going to stay on that part a little bit longer. If you see you're losing them, you're going to change your pacing. It's again about the listening and responding.
Yeah, I always say that rule number one in speaking is, it's about them. You got to make it about them. You got to speak to people in a language and in a way and a manner that they can take it in. So let's talk about speeches then. So one of the great things about Cindy and Minerva Enterprises is you help speakers find the right places to speak. And when I talk about getting speaking gigs, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a professional speaker. It's if you are speaking to represent your company. If you're speaking pro bono, doing a pro bono speech to raise your visibility so that you become considered a thought leader and then are more promotable, that's also a speaking gig. So Cindy, if one is interested in getting out there speaking, whether it's as a keynoter or whether you're speaking to raise your own visibility and share your wisdom, one hopes, how do you find the right places to speak?
It depends on where you're at in your career. If you're just starting out, you're just trying to figure out your message, you just speak wherever you can, just to get, because it's a profession. You just have to test out that message everywhere you can, and just start to refine and play.
It's a skill that can be trained.
Absolutely. And I find that a lot of speakers are not targeted enough. So a lot of the reason why speakers are not getting booked is because they don't have a strategy. They don't have a proper platform, in the sense that their materials are a mess. They don't present themselves like somebody who's worth being, hired. And there's a lot of speakers I've seen. I had a client who literally has been speaking for 20 years. She's a good speaker. She's very experienced. She's never gotten paid to do it. And I looked at her materials and how she's pitching, and I'm like, oh my God, you should have talked to me 20 years ago. Because she's very experienced, but she didn't have the right marketing materials. I mean, first impressions are everything. So it's really important to first really look at your message and don't make it generic. Have a strong point of view that makes you stand out, because everybody will say, well, I have a unique story. I have a unique, message. And then they tell me that they help people to grow their business or to overcome obstacles. 10 million other people are training and coaching and speaking on that. Mm-hmm. So how are you different when it comes to overcoming obstacles? How are you different when it comes to business growth or health or wellness or vitality? Like, how are you different? And this is where people say, but I am different because I have a story. Again, you're making it about your story and not about you. So I told you my story, but I related it back to why I do what I do and why I understand about stress and trauma and why so many of us live with it and how I can help them. So what you need to do is really ask yourself deeper questions around, what do I believe that is different from everybody else? How can I present my point of view from my life experiences, not just my story? And I'm tired of all the marketers saying, just tell your story and you'll make money. They're just trying to get you to spend $10,000 to write a book, just telling it like it is. The problem is that, do you really want to be known for just your story? Or do you want to be known for all of your richness and brilliance? Like, it's so limiting. So you really need to kind of look at, take some time if you don't know what your strong point of view is. Take time and say, what's my education? What's my big life experiences been? What have I gone through? What have I overcome? What have I accomplished? And then brainstorm it all out and then start to see how it connects.
What value do you offer, for instance?
What value do
you offer
other people? And what's a strong point of view that differentiates you? So if I was pitching for a gig as a presentation trainer and somebody else was, everybody else, for the most part, are pitching, let me help you be confident. Mm-hmm. I pitch, confidence is overrated. And the meeting planner goes, what? And then they want to read the rest. And then I talk about how stress sits in the body and what the statistics are and how if we don't address this, people are losing sales or whatever they're losing based on the audience. So I have a strong point of view that is very defined. And you want to figure out, but that confidence is overrated is because I've managed to put together my story, my background, my training all into one sentence.
That's great.
So you need to be able to have something that people go, what? I'm sorry, you just said what? So I had a life coach once, and all the life coaches say, oh, if you're feeling like you have too much energy and energy vampires, put a bubble around you, a pink bubble of light, whatever, right? And her strong point of view is, F the bubble. She swears a lot as a life coach. She says, F the bubble. You put a bubble around you, you're squishing all the bad energy to you. It's about expanding out. And people go, oh, that's different. What else do you know? So you need to start thinking about what are other people saying where you go, I think they're a little bit off the kilter. And what have you gone through in your life as a whole that gives you a strong point of view that differentiates who you are? Because if you don't have that strong point of view, you're just another life coach, you're just another business coach, you're just another wellness coach and speaker.
And there again, and if you're in a corporate setting, you're just another manager, just another speaker, just somebody out there. How are you ever going to get hired to come in and be on that panel or something like that? So that's a great thing. Cindy Ashton, it has been so much fun to have you with us. Can you give us a sort of one thought to leave people with as we close?
Yeah. Trust your power.
Trust your power.
Trust your power, because we live in a world where we have 1 million people voices coming at us at all times. And that takes away from our power. And when we are spinning because we have so many opinions and thoughts coming at us that we're not being our true self, first of all, it creates chaos in your business and in your life, but also it doesn't allow you to step up as that leader in the business world. It doesn't allow you to step up as that leader on the stage. You can't possibly be in your full power if you don't trust your power.
I love it. Cindy Ashton, thank you so much for coming on Speakers Who Get Results. And I'd like to remind everybody, you can go to our free assessment at speakforresults.com. That's www.speakforresults.com. You can find out a lot more about Cindy by looking in the show notes of this podcast. And thank you, Cindy, for being with us.
Thank
and I
you
will
for
see
having
you
me
on the next one.
We have just concluded another great episode of Speakers Who Get Results with your host, Elizabeth Bachman. If you got value from today's episode, please feel free to share us with your friends and colleagues. You may also visit elizabethbachman.com for additional resources. Be sure to tune in every week for new episodes, and thanks for tuning in.